Now it's time for some fantasy football championship week, the last week of the year. We got our buddy D Nasty back. Dave, how the heck you doing?
Oh, good. I can't believe it's already coming to an end already. It's been a great season. I made the Super Bowl, or I'm going to make the Super Bowl in 3 of my leagues, so I'm pretty happy about that. A lot of disappointments, though, on players this week that didn't perform for some people in the playoffs that really killed a lot of people. Jalen Hurts hurt me in one of my leagues, but thankfully I had Tua, who got enough points for me to put me into the next
You
round.
couldn't
But
get Minshew? He had like 30 some points.
I know. Didn't get him in time, but my backups were still good enough that I was able to squeak out a win and get into the Super Bowl. So I had one of the best teams in that league, though. So, but yeah, a lot of people underperformed this week. Some of the guys bounced back this week for some of you guys, but there still was a lot of disappointing guys that we'll get into this week.
Yeah, I won all my leagues too this week. It was good. There was a lot of badness, though. We'll go over some of that. Anybody playing the tougher teams in the colder weather kind of struggled in many cases. A few guys performed in the cold, but many didn't. So that hurt a lot of people. Like Andrews from the Baltimore Ravens hasn't been good lately, has he?
No, he hasn't at all.
Yeah, he used to be a top 2, top 3 tight end for a while.
I know. He's been sucking up. He's one of the key guys. Sanders disappointed a lot of people this week.
Oh, again.
2 weeks in a row.
Fumbling. Oh, he's been bad. Yeah, I know. But it's funny. I told people that maybe you want to focus on players that play in the domes or in the warmer weather. If you're like 50-50 on some stuff, I mean, those cold winds and the cold weather, a lot of underperforming players this week. Justin Fields is one of them. There's just a lot of them. But some people asked me for some advice this week. That's what I gave them. I at least gave someone Taysom Hill for tight end over Fant. Fant was a massive bust, even though you would have thought he would have done well. He's kind of injured, I guess. But Taysom Hill got a touchdown and some rushing yards and stuff like that, and so that counts. So that's good for that piece of advice. And then we're getting a lot of 50-50 questions, so it's tough. Zach Wilson's been absolutely terrible. He completely bombed it for every single Jets player. So that was another one.
Oh yeah.
And when people ask Elijah Moore or Peoples Jones, you have to think about who's throwing to him. Mike White's finally going to possibly be back this week. So
he's clear today actually to be back. So he will be back this week actually.
Exactly.
On that note, let's get into the key injuries.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Fire away, Dave.
All right, we got Justin Fields. After the game, he said he couldn't put full weight on his foot and aggravated a previous injured non-throwing shoulder against the Bills. Expects to be able to play in Week 17, but definitely keep an eye on that. Christian Watson, another disappointing guy. He was on fire for like 5-6 weeks. The last 2 weeks, he's kind of disappointed. He was playing well. He had 6 catches for 49 yards on 8 targets in just the first half. He left with a hip injury, though. He said he'll be okay or all right in the long term, but we don't know what that means, if he's going to play this week or not. So keep an eye on that situation. Hunter Henry collided with a teammate, Jonnu Smith, suffered a knee injury. Could not return, so definitely keep an eye on that.
And Jonnu got a concussion from that.
Exactly.
He lost 2 tight ends collided. That's just so like Matt Patricia, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
He probably drew up the play so they run right into each other.
Alvin Kamara left the game with a knee injury. He's able to come back and play through it, which is a good sign. So he'll probably be questionable for this week, but he should be able to play. It was nice to see him bounce back. He's actually been struggling through the playoffs. 2 weeks ago, he struggled for me. This week, he actually did well. He had over 70 yards and a touchdown this week. So definitely one of your studs you can plug back in there, and hopefully he helps you get to that championship. Greg Dortch, who actually had a big game this past week. He had 10 of 11 passes thrown his way for 98 yards. DeAndre Hopkins, another guy that disappointed this week. 1 catch for 4 yards. I had him in 3 leagues. Did not do very well for me this week.
Oh, another bust. Yeah. I mean, who was throwing to him? McSorley. That's why.
Exactly. But the 5 guys who were actually winners this week, I just want to get into these guys quickly. 5 guys who won this week, who I think that were winners this week, who definitely were guys trending up. Gardner Minshew had a nice game for the Eagles. George Kittle, with the 2nd week in a row, he had a big game. 2 TDs again, 2 multi-TD games in a row. Cam Akers showing signs of coming around. 100 yards and a touchdown this past week.
Man, screw him, dude. He's completely screwed me over in my league, and I eventually dropped him. And then that was the weirdest story that's happened. It's like he's pissed. All of a sudden, it seems like the Rams are giving up on him. He's requesting trades. He's being like DFA'd for weeks, right? DFA'd.
Oh,
And then you think that Darrell Henderson is the man now, and then he eventually gets cut. What the hell happened to Darrell Henderson and the Rams? I never heard that story.
I don't know. They cut him. He was with a different team for a while, but I think I might even got cut from them now too, actually. So, yeah, that was just the best. He had 23 carries, 118 yards, and a touchdown. Second best rushing game of his career. And that was for the playoffs. So you just
look what Higbee did that game.
Exactly, too.
51 points. Yeah, I had him in 2 leagues that was busting all year.
Yeah, so another guy that was trending up, Jahan Dotson, another player. Definitely he's going to be rising up draft boards next year. We'll talk about him in our draft edition in August, but he might be a top 100 ADP next year. So definitely keep an eye on him and plug him in for next week. He's definitely on the rise. And TJ Hawkinson, he's been awesome those last 2-3 weeks. He helped me win one of my leagues this week to get to the championship. So definitely another guy on the rise, and definitely.
Well, he's been a starter, I think, Hawkinson, for a while now.
He has, but he definitely has been blowing up these last 2 weeks.
So you kind of you're pivoting to guys that just did good from key injuries, right?
Yeah, I'm just seeing some guys that are trending up right now that you've been starting these last couple of weeks that are just definitely trending up that you want to get in there, and that you're just looking forward for next year as well. Just kind of looking towards next year too. 5 losers this past week. Aaron Jones, like I said, he definitely disappointed. I had him in a couple leagues. He only got me 4 points in a couple leagues. Hopkins, like I talked about. Geno Smith disappointed this past week in the playoffs. J.K. Dobbins disappointed quite a bit. And Rashad White has kind of been a no-show with Leonard Fournette back. So those are some guys that disappointed this past week for several of the teams that were trying to fight for those playoffs.
Well, Russell Wilson. I mean, you can't even say his name because he's been disappointing so long. But I will say, I'll say that it's funny now that Seattle's kind of stinking again. It's almost like, well, I think it was a mix between coaching and just Geno did really well and probably played past his capabilities, but Pete Carroll just has not been drawing up good game plans against these teams and making stupid decisions, not kicking field goals and stuff. First half stuff, it's like, dude, you're 4th and 7 and you got a field goal right there and you go for it. You can get back in this game somewhat, and doesn't do that. But that's just what they have to deal with. I mean, we'll see what happens for next year, but that contract for Russell Wilson I was mentioning before, that is an ugly contract for them.
All those draft picks they gave up to get him too. They just screwed themselves. They shot themselves in the foot with that.
Well, maybe they get a good coach and can fix them. Yeah, because Russell Wilson when Russell Wilson ran the ball, that's when he opened up more passing lanes because the linebacker would get off their coverage and then would go charge them, just like they do Mahomes, and then tight end wide open. That's how you do it.
They got to roll him right or roll him left, get him out of that pocket so he's not just sitting back there.
I mean, the first down yard marker was wide open with 5 yards ahead of him, and then he bombs it in the end zone for an interception by Ramsey. I'm like, what are you doing? They had the first down.
Exactly. Two other key injuries to note. Bruised egos, bruised confidence, and just all-around poor play. Taylor Heineke and Zach Wilson losing their jobs probably and losing their spots for their team possibly. In Zach Wilson's case, they said he's not going to probably bring them back next year. So 2 guys who are injured in different ways than physically.
Well, Heineke sure proved to us that he's not a number 1. But I will say that neither is freaking Carson Wentz. I mean, he had a nice little drive when they were in prevent D. Don't be fooled. He sucks, man. And so
Carson Wentz is definitely not the answer. I still think Heineke's the better quarterback there. Still.
I still believe, I do too. Greg Dulcich was ruled out with a hammy too in that game, but Denver, it's hard to trust playing anybody there too. And you didn't mention Tua, did you?
Oh yeah, the concussion that was just announced today. Yeah.
Yeah, someone's going to be fired over there because what the heck was he finishing that game if he was dazed? I mean,
he threw those. That was before halftime.
Yeah, he gave Green Bay some Christmas presents I mentioned earlier.
Yeah, I was okay with that though. But yeah, he's probably seen 3 guys on the field in the whole second half. He probably didn't know what to throw to.
How about Green Bay fans? 37% now to make the playoffs. You got a shot, but Minnesota's going to come in there and Try to win their 12th one-score game this
Oh
year.
my God, Minnesota's probably the worst 12-3 team that there is in the entire league.
The worst I've ever seen, probably.
Oh yeah.
Let's move. Well, you mentioned Christian Watson with the hip injury,
Yep,
right?
yep.
Yeah, and then okay. I think we got them all. Let's move to the waiver wire then. Tight end Eric Saubert, I said for the Dulcich injury, could be a streamer this week or a DFS type player. So thinking about him. Wide receiver Romeo Dobbs for the Watson injury, maybe, and Randall Cobb even. He steps up a lot. I know he's like a second string guy, but Lazard, he hasn't been doing a lot either.
No.
So
Dobbs is definitely the guy you want there, actually. Yeah. If he's not owning your league, definitely Dobbs is the guy you want. If he was dropped when he was injured, definitely go after him.
Agreed. Tyler Higbee. I mean, Jesus, he had me like 40 points in the league last week. Only owning 65% of leagues. I think now with the Baker Mayfield show, they're kind of running on some steam here. It's interesting. They got a good coach over there, and I think you're going to see a lot more targets for Higbee again. So think about him this week. Plus, he plays in warm weather. So they're playing the Chargers this week too. So that's
they have no receivers there either, with Kupp out, and then Van Jefferson, he's not number one really, and then Allen Robinson out too. They got to go to Higbee now a little bit now.
Yeah, and wide receiver Kendrick Bourne had 9 targets, a TD, and 29 rushing yards. I kind of like him this week against a bad Miami defense. So think about that. Tight end Shane Zylstra from Detroit had 3 touchdowns. Dave, that dude Shane Zylstra. Have we mentioned him before?
No.
Well, I'll tell you this: Detroit's been banged up too a little bit, and obviously they traded Hawkinson. Zylstra really stepped it up. Wide receiver Isaiah Hodgins had 11 targets and a TD for the Giants. He kind of came out of nowhere too. Of course, the Giants are playing.
Actually, he's been their go-to guy the last 2-3 weeks. He was on the practice squad of the Bills earlier this year, so definitely a guy I really like. I like the Hodgins one a lot.
Yep, and Greg Dortch the Torch, 11 targets, 3 rushes. He's getting a lot of rushes for the Cardinals. So Cardinals are kind of a lost team, though. So tread lightly on that one. Dave, what about you for the waivers? I know you mentioned some, obviously.
Yeah, and the backup I like the backup for 2-0, because if he doesn't play, we're going to definitely like Skylar Thompson. I was just double checking on that. I think he's going to be the guy that starts.
Isn't it Teddy B?
It is, but Skylar Thompson started earlier this year, and Teddy B's been inactive for some games this year too. So I think it's going to be Skylar Thompson actually who's going to go with. But I don't know if with the playoffs on the line, they might go with Teddy B. So keep an eye on that situation actually. But earlier in the year, a few weeks ago, they had Skylar Thompson as the number 2, and they were inactive for Teddy B. So we'll see who starts there. But Teddy B would be a good pickup. Whoever's starting there, you definitely want to pick up. Jahan Dotson, I really like him this week. Like I said, he's definitely trending up. He scored in the last couple of games here. He still can be a high-end receiver with a lot of targets, even with Terry McLaurin there too. So definitely like him. Gardner Minshew, only won in 40% of leagues still. He could be definitely your league winner. Definitely pick him up. Hurts said he wants to play this week, but who knows if he does. I think Hurts sits. I don't think they play him. I think they get him totally healthy for the playoffs and just worry about that.
Well, they do need one more win to clinch home field and everything. Obviously, they lose 2 in a row and the Vikings win 2 in a row, or the San Francisco. I don't know about the Cowboys. They're 1-1 with the Cowboys.
Yeah.
I wish they would have won that game. The running backs blew it once again for the Eagles for the cover, but Teddy Bridgewater is shown second on ESPN's depth chart. It's just ESPN's. I don't know. And Skylar Thompson's third. So just know that for now.
Yeah, I had Isaiah Hodgins too on my list. I definitely like him. Like I said, he's been really Daniel Jones's go-to guy the last couple of weeks. I really like him a lot. Drake London, he's only 72%. He's a little bit higher, but he's actually been coming on. Some guys might have dropped him in your league, so he can be definitely a league winner. With Ryder playing there now too. Ritter playing there. He's definitely a guy. He's been looking for London a lot too. He got banged up a little bit in this last game, but he's definitely a number 1 there though, and he's coming on lately this last couple of weeks as well. So he can help you win that championship if you need some of the fill in at wide receiver as well.
Yeah, good call. I agree. Let's move on to non-starters trending up. You already mentioned some of them too that have been trending. Well, some of them were starters too, but why don't you start with non-starters trending up? Anything else you got?
Yeah, I like Jameson Williamson, the rookie for the Lions against that poor Bears D. I like him. He's definitely trending up. DJ Shark, he had another good game this week too. I like him this week, trending up against the Bears' poor defense.
Just say all of them versus the Bears, man.
But
I got them all. I got them all listed. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamal Williams. I mean, you're going to get Jared Goff with like 3 or 4 TDs, right?
Yeah, but Jared Goff is a borderline starter though. Now he's having one of the great year at quarterback, and then Ron Bond, you're already starting. So I like DJ Shark as one guy that you're probably maybe borderline not starting. And I think Jameson Williamson, he's coming back from that knee injury. He's been playing well the last couple weeks, so definitely like him.
Well, let's just say you have like Josh Allen and you have Jared Goff. Who are you starting? Josh Allen's playing the Bengals in Cincinnati, possible very cold weather, and he's been prone to throw picks. Or Jared Goff against the Bears. I'm sorry, I'm picking Jared Goff over Josh Allen.
I'm picking Goff too. That's what I ran into this week. I have Josh Allen and Pat Mahomes, and I was debating on who to start this week.
It sounds like a blessing of riches right there.
Yeah, it's in Shooties League, man. That's in our league that I'm in with you. So I had to debate on who to start. I started Josh Allen, even though he's in the cold weather. He still did all right for me. Pat Mahomes was pretty comparable with his game too, but they were still both playing in the cold. But Josh Allen was more the colder weather game, but still they ended up working out okay for me. That Mahomes only scored like 6 more points, but definitely I was debating that one for a while on that one. Jaguars, I like their matchup with the Texans. Texans have been playing well lately. They've been in the last 3-4 games they've played them, and they just beat the Titans and crushed their playoff hopes almost. So we'll see what Dallas does against the Titans. If they beat the Titans too, Jaguars, I can't be more than happy for them. I'm liking Lawrence this week against the poor Texans D and Zay Jones and Christian Kirk. I like that. I like those guys against the Texans this week. Patriots, I do like Kendrick Bourne, like you were saying. You're mentioning him. I like Ramon Stevenson too. Definitely against the poor Dolphins D. I like those matchups for them. Buccaneers, Panthers give up quite a few points there. They don't have one of the better defenses. I like the Buccaneers this week. Mike Evans, he's got one of my bust of the year ones. I haven't won my leagues. He's just been horrible this entire year. I started him this past week in the playoffs, and he just killed me. I do not like Mike Evans going forward, but still, I like some of the other guys.
I don't like Tampa at all. I think they just lost another offensive lineman. Brady's going to be under pressure. The freaking Carolina's playing on fumes. They're on fuel, I should say, not on fumes. Tampa's on fumes. Yeah, they've been playing, pedal to the metal, and now they have an opportunity to beat Tampa and maybe sneak into that NFC South spot. Tampa's got a hard schedule. I mean, what's really crazy is with the Saints' victory, everybody is still in it for the NFC South.
Oh yeah. All 3 of those teams are all in it. Yeah, the whole division's in it because they're all around the same record.
Yeah, I think everyone but Atlanta now. Atlanta finally fell off with that loss, but the Saints are still there, and
Panthers are still there. The Buccaneers are only game ahead of them.
Yeah, the Bucs really could have lost last week. I was hoping that overtime. I could have fell asleep during that game. All the good Christmas stuff, but it was. It was like an old man in a chair, my man. I mean, it was also boring as shit, that game. But it was 16-16 in overtime when I woke up.
I know, it was a bad game. I like Brock Purdy this week against the Raiders. I like that matchup definitely for Brock Purdy, man. Mr. Loveland, he's been balling. I like Brock Purdy this week. I do like Mike White this week against that poor Seahawks team. They're not stopping anybody. I'm liking Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, and my boy Aaron Rodgers against that poor Vikings pass defense. I think they win this week. I don't think the Vikings are really that good. All those close games. I'm liking Baker Mayfield this week. Chargers just clinched their playoff spot tonight with that big win against Indy. So they might rest some guys. I think they still play some guys, but
I'm actually real worried about the Niners resting people too.
Yeah, they could actually too.
I mean, and it's just so like, what do you do week 16 when you've already injured like 2 major quarterbacks? And you're already in the playoffs. You won the division. The worst you can have is the 4 seed, and it's not like you can make the 1 seed. The Eagles are going to win one of the last 2 games.
Yeah.
It's like, who cares if you're the 3 or 4 seed, It's like you're still going to get that first home game. And the only way you're going to get the second home game is if you're the number 2 seed. And the Vikings already have 1 less loss. If I'm the GM or the coach of that team, I'm probably gonna rest some guys, play some backups. I don't know. That's just what I would do, but I don't know what they're gonna do.
No, I agree. Yeah,
Shanahan.
they definitely got some guys banged up there, and Debo's banged up still. He's still not going to be back this week, probably. Purdy, I think I still start him, but you got to be careful with him though too, because you're down to your last starting quarterback pretty much. So yeah, like you said, you might rest some guys. You don't know. Maybe there's McCaffrey. He's a little banged up still too. I'm sure he'll play, but he's still banged up. So yeah, I definitely agree with you in that. I would agree with resting a few guys for the 49ers. Even Dallas. Dallas is pretty much locked into the 5, I think, spot now. So they don't really have that much to play for either. So that's kind of a game you got to watch too to see if they kind of start resting guys these next couple weeks as well. Bengals Buffalo game. That's a tough game, man. Both those defenses have been playing well. I don't like Joe Mixon in that game. Singletary had one of his best games this past week, but I'm definitely downgrading him as well. James Cook has been looking up. I like James Cook actually, but the Bengals have been playing really well. But Sam Hubbard injury really kills them on that D line. So, but yeah, that's a tough matchup for both those guys. Have both good defenses, so I'm downgrading some of those players actually.
Oh, you're getting to bust. I got to do my trending up here still. I have here's some things. Here's an interesting thing, Dave. Jacksonville's in another weird situation because they could beat the Texans and lose to the Titans and still not get in, especially with the Chargers win. Miami, Chargers, and Baltimore. There's your 3 wild card. They're not catching Baltimore. They do have the tiebreaker versus the Chargers, but I'm not sure if the Chargers lose again. And the Chargers have an extra win ahead of them anyway.
Chargers already locked up a spot tonight. They already made the playoffs already with tonight's win. So
okay, well there you go. And so the Jaguars would have to hope for the Patriots or the Dolphins to get knocked out, and they play each other. So one's getting knocked out, but that doesn't mean the other's going to get knocked out.
But they take their division though. If they beat the Titans, they win their division.
Right. And so why would you try this week against the Texans? So I'm curious about that. It's like if you beat the Texans and lose to the Titans, you can still completely be out of the playoffs.
Yeah.
Losing to the Miami or Patriots, Miami/Patriots, even the Jets are kind of in it. Miami/Patriots for them. And then you have the obviously the Chargers that just clinched. So, and the Ravens are already in. So you have a very uphill battle.
Yeah, I'm cheering for the Jaguars. I hope they beat the Titans and I hope they beat the Texans. But
I think JaMychal Hasty might be big, is what I'm trying to say for the Jaguars, okay. and because I think they're going to try to not give ETN as much carries this week, and I think JaMychal Hasty gets a ton of them. I think that they're just going to try to coast through the Texans, and it's okay if they lose this game because the real game they need to win is the following week. So. Now, there is a chance they beat the Texans and lose to the Titans, still get in the playoffs, but they need a lot of stuff to happen for that. And so,
well, the Titans lose against the Cowboys this week too. That's a tough matchup for the Titans.
Well, we are. So they're 10-point dogs. If that's not going to happen. The Titans are not having Tannehill. I mean, let's just face it. They have to be looking at that. Now, if that happens, they have to beat the Texans. But just think about that. If obviously the Titans lose, they don't necessarily need to win this week. So I'm thinking JaMychal Hasty is going to be a big player for them this week. So I put him as a non-starter training up. J.K. Dobbins versus the Steelers is big. Cam Akers, like I mentioned earlier, he's got a great matchup against the Chargers too.
Oh
yeah. David Montgomery versus the Lions, I think, and well. And Justin Fields versus the Lions is good too. They're kind of in a revenge mode. The Bears are going to want to play spoiler and kick the Lions out of the playoffs. You know that. Oh, yeah. Shane Zylstra, he's playing. He's going to be playing against the Bears.
Actually, I definitely.
I don't know. He's playing the Bears, man. I think he. Here's the thing. If I have, I would be desperate to use him, but I'm just saying. I'll tell you this: if you want to cockblock somebody, it wouldn't suck to pick him up to block the other team that doesn't have a tight end. Imagine if someone else picks him up, uses him against you, and he gets 2 touchdowns and on it.
He's a 1-week wonder. I don't think.
All right. Mike White, big versus Steelers. I agree with that. Jamal Williams with the Bears, all the Lions, pretty much. Romeo Doubs versus the Vikings, I think, is going to be big, but not too many cold weather ones. I also like KJ Osborne a little bit for the Packers because he should be not getting Jari Alexander against him. He should be getting the easier corner, but yeah. And so I just think that try to go towards warmer weather players. Bus, Kirk Cousins versus the Packers. Now, I think this could be a low scoring game. I'm a little worried about him. This is a big spot for the Packers. They're going to be really hyped up. The Packers are trying to win. The Packers have a revenge spot.
Playing at Lambeau.
The Vikings are due for a stinker. I did like them at +4. It's down to +3, and I do like them at +3 still because they win one-score games, and my numbers say to bet it. It's because the Packers have been bad, but it wouldn't shock me if this is like a 13-10, 17-14 type game. It wouldn't shock me if Cousins doesn't blow up. So just keep that in mind. Quarterback Geno Smith versus the Jets is going to be rough, I think. I can't trust him no more. Derrick Henry versus the Cowboys, Dave. I don't like Derrick Henry versus the Cowboys either this week. Yeah, he could lose your fantasy game for you, especially when all you have to do is stack the box now. It's like, are you really afraid of Willis's arm? No. He's got no one to throw it to either. Miles Sanders versus the Saints. He's been busting your. If you made it this far with Miles Sanders, God bless you, because he's been screwing everybody over in fantasy this couple weeks. Even Josh Jacobs has kind of cooled off, and now he's got a tough matchup against the Niners. That's a terrible draw for your fantasy championship week. Kareem Hunt versus Washington's not looking good. Neither is Nick Chubb versus Washington. Those are really bust, Dave. Do you have any more bust for us?
No, I definitely agree with you. I had a lot of the same ones as you. Henry, I definitely don't like that matchup. Willis, I'm not starting him at all. He's definitely not a non-starter. Like you said, I don't like some of those other ones too. Miles Sanders, Josh Jacobs, don't like neither one of them against those tough defenses. Deontay Foreman, I think he struggles a little bit against the Buccaneers. He had a big game this past week. The Buccaneers actually do have a good run defense. I look for him to struggle a little bit this week too as well. I do not like Geno Smith against the tough Jets D. They had that nice front line too that they played tough against. Vikings, I think Cousins never really plays well against the Packers. Actually, he always seems to struggle against us for some reason. I think Jefferson still has a good game, but I think Cousins does struggle a little bit, like you said, in this game. I do like Dobbins, like you said, but I think, like you said, I was talking about this briefly at the end of my people trending up. My bust this week, definitely the Bills and Bengals games. Those are two tough defenses. I don't know what the weather's going to be like in Cincinnati, but that could be a game too that you got to keep an eye on the weather though too, and that could be a lower scoring game too, kind of like the Packers Vikings game, like you were saying. Two good defenses playing against each other. Both good quarterbacks, Burrow and Allen, have been on fire these last couple weeks though, so it's kind of hard to judge that game. That's a game I'm staying away from, kind of. But if you got to plug in those starters like you normally do, you're definitely plugging them in. You got to definitely start them, but they're definitely trending down a little bit in that game as well.
You know what also sucks? The Falcons and the Cardinals are in a dome, and their players suck now because was Sorley or Colt McCoy. It's like, can't even trust DeAndre Hopkins really, and it's in a dome, so it sounds good, but just bad players on both sides. Desmond Ridder, we got a rookie there, and then the Lions Bears is probably the best one that you got.
That's a juicy matchup for fantasy, yeah, definitely. Too bad defense.
It is
scoring.
And the other dome one, or two more domes, Las Vegas versus San Francisco. Who wants to play guys against San Francisco's team?
No one.
I can see Devontae Adams scoring a bit, but geez, man, that's a tough one. It's great for San Fran though. George Kittle should have a monster game, and he's not a non-starter training up; he's a starter. So just know that. And then you got LA versus LA, and so the Chargers versus the Rams. I think that's going to be a fun one. That's the only other one I guess you can start. Now that the Rams are kind of making some noise, try to find some nuggets with those teams. But the rest of them, lots of cold weather, lots of rain. It's supposed to be rainy in Baltimore, rainy in Washington, rainy in Philly.
Snow too in some of those places, yeah. And I like Mayfield's trending up too. He's a guy that I forgot to mention before. Mayfield's definitely trending up, and Akers. Both those guys. And Chargers don't have that great of a D, so they're definitely showing. And then Chargers just clinched a playoff spot too. So who knows about that game too? Baker's been playing well. Now that he's got a good coach and he's on a better team, he's been looking up.
I love it. I was going to write him down. And I forgot. That should be my nasty sleepers. Why not?
All right. Did you go with him as your nasty sleeper? That was next actually on our list.
I'm going with Amon-Ra St. Brown. I don't think he's a starter for everybody, but I think the fact that his brother Equimus St. Brown plays for the Bears, he's going to have a monster game at home against the Bears. So I think he is my nasty sleeper, Dave.
That's pretty funny because Jared Goff is my nasty sleeper of the week. But
he's not a sleeper no more, you said.
I know, but He's definitely the guy that's going to win it for you though this week. That's a juicy matchup, like we said, and they're playing in the dome. So he's my sleeper of the week, man. I know most people should be starting him right now, but some people probably aren't, and I'm going with him as my D Nasty sleeper.
Well, there you go. You totally agree with my point then. So love it, Dave. Well, hey man, that's the end of our show. It's been great. Thanks so much for coming on every Monday and breaking down fantasy football once again. And we might do a little fantasy baseball in early March or something like that. Maybe we'll just, I know not a lot of people play fantasy baseball, but maybe we can get a few moments to bring you on and do a quick sleeper draft.
Yeah, I love it actually, and yeah, if we want to do that, actually look for us back in August again for our player drafts and our pre-rankings and stuff. What we do every August too, so that's always a good time as well.
Awesome. Well, great stuff. Thanks everyone for watching this show. If you have any questions for fantasy, please tweet us at the Odds Breakers. Have a great rest of your week and go get some winners.